In a world that glorifies the grind, Selah is a sacred invitation to pause. Every other week, you'll find space here to slow down, listen inward, and remember who you are beneath all the noise. Through guided reflections, soulful conversations, gentle practices, and story-led journeys, Selah, a deep pause, offers rest. Not an escape, not to repress, but as a way to come home. This podcast is for those standing at the edge of change. You know who you are. The seekers, the sensitives, the high-functioning feelers, those ready to honor the quiet and reclaim their own rhythm. So come as you are and exhale. Then exhale again and stay for the stillness. Welcome back to Selah, a deep pause. Today, I'm excited because I am bringing in a friend. His name is Jon Jennings, and we were at each other's first journey. And he has been an incredible partner when it has come to, let's go. Like, let's get uncomfortable. Let's tap into that shame. Let's tap into that grief. Let's tap into that radical ownership. And woo, it's been beautiful medicine for years. It continues to be beautiful medicine. Before I bring him in, what I wanted to do was open up with a little activation to open us up and then see where this conversation leads us. So I want to open this space consciously. So take a breath with me. Let your body arrive before your mind does. This conversation may activate something in you, not because it's harmful, but because it's honest and it's raw. And honesty has a way of touching the places we've protected for so long. So as you listen today, I invite you to stay in I. To notice where your mind wants to say, yes, that's them. No, that's wrong. And instead, return to your own body. Take what resonates and leave what doesn't. And stay with yourself as you listen. I am not here to project. I am not here to diagnose. And I am not here to tell the truth of your own lived experience. So may this conversation be a beautiful mirror, not a weapon, not a shield. So let's begin. So welcome, Jon.
Enter the diva. Thanks for having me.
We dive into so many epic conversations over the last, I think we're going on 5 years, buddy.
Yeah, I know it.
And I'm so curious to open the floor and see what you're willing to share.
So it was so fun. We just connected this week and we were exploring a number of things and then talking about being with you in this forum today. The first thing that really came on for me, and I love that you said in your introduction, like stay with the I. And one of the most powerful things that I've experienced, and I experienced it through the She Matrix, which is another form of magic that we've been talking about, a container that both Laura and I were in outside of Journey, but another very magical space. And I was in a men's event led by 3 women, and these 3 women held a container like I've never experienced before. And they taught me what it was to speak from the I. So it is the thing that if there's one thing I've incorporated in my life more than any other thing, it is every time I speak, I'm speaking from I. I don't say, you know how it's like when you, because the reality is I have no idea what your experience is because that is projecting. I'm assuming that you have the same experience that I have. And so I love starting with setting this entire container with the fact that the most powerful thing that I have found for me is to always speak about my experience, and that uses I. I experienced this. I felt this. I saw this thing. This is what I believe. And this idea of what is truth, I think is so fascinating because I lived for a long time wanting to know what the truth was. Perhaps the most freeing thing that's ever happened to me was the moment when I finally decided that all the answers were within me and that my ultimate guidance actually came from my body. Laura and I both shared a really beautiful woman who did a lot of teaching for us, both what you would say positive teaching and negative teaching. I view it all positive, even though the average person may look at it and say, she did what? She said what? Like that happened? Like, yeah, but it was all awesome teaching. But she introduced me, and I don't know if she introduced this to you as Laura, if you learned it in a different space, but it was muscle testing. And this idea, and I'd heard about it of like, the only thing I heard is like people who went and like learned about allergies and holding things in their hands and like, they would go weak or strong. And I was like, what is that? There's so many things in my pre-journey, the PJ life, right? Pre-journey life that were so weird, that were definitely not in the good category. They're in the wrong and bad and weird and potentially even evil category, right? Things I didn't understand because I'd never experienced them before. But I had these like little seeds planted along the way. And when I started playing with this idea of sway testing and actually asking my body, can you show me yes? Body, can you show me no? And then I'm doing the most silly things, right? What tea would I like to have today? It means in that moment. That is actually, I slowed down enough and I started to retrain myself in the most simple things to say, what is my body actually leaning towards? And for me now, that is so much of what I see as the truth, is my body telling me the truth. And so then we start to play into all these aspects of intuition. One of my favorite stories about my wife, who's a speech therapist, who's very, very good at overriding herself, especially for the collective and to belong and all these things. So she's at her job, right? And she has a job to do. She walks to the doorway and her whole body goes, do not go in there. But it's her job. She's getting paid to go in there. Her body's like, do not go in there. But she overrides it, does her duty. She walks in. This guy ends up punching her in the face. And it was okay. She works in a neuro rehab facility. Like, it's like these things are going to happen. And it wasn't about the fact that she got punched. She's fine. Like, nothing major happened to her. Like, it wasn't catastrophic, but it was this beautiful lesson of like the wisdom that actually exists in our body and whether or not I will slow down enough to listen. So, from speaking in my experience and my truth and what my body leads me into, I think I'd like to start with our first journey together. And in our first journey, I didn't even know what a journey was, right? I have no idea what I'm in for. Still, in many ways, I think it's the most profound journey I've ever had. Like, well, there's nothing like my first time, right? My first time is always going to be
everything,
amazing.
right?
Everything's amazing. It's my first time for all that it was. But I remember I was there because I was enraged. And again, not more than, I don't know, maybe 2 months before I showed up there, I had been paralyzed for 3 weeks because my body was telling the truth. Because I had been repressing and repressing and repressing so many things. I had been choking down, not saying things, and just absorbing and absorbing and self-forgetting and self-erasing. And for all you lovely listeners out there, it's not like I'm in a concentration camp. I'm a suburban man who's living with a beautiful woman and 3 healthy children. Yeah, because it's fucking hard sometimes, even when it looks storybook insta perfect. I had just betrayed and silenced myself for so long, and my body had been telling me stories, trying to slow me down through injuries and chronic pains forever and ever, until finally my body got so loud that I literally couldn't move. When I talk about paralysis, people, I'm talking about peeing my bed twice talking about passing out 2 hours a day because the pain was so intense. It didn't matter what position I was in. So anyone who's had this kind of pain knows, and anyone who hasn't doesn't understand. It just is. But that happened, and it led me to Journey, which is something I would have never, ever, ever considered because it was wrong and weird and bad. And I was a say no to drugs kid, and like, I don't do these things. And yet, because of the pain, and again, anyone who has had experience like me, when the pain is so bad, and I've had bouts of this, and I'm like, I'll do whatever. I will do what do you want me to do? You want me to underwater basket weave on one toe wearing pink tutus? Like, I will do whatever it takes to get out of this. And so I end up with this journey. And I've begun some psychosomatic awareness. I read this book by Dr. John Sarno, and his whole thesis telling all these things to like meet my analytical Western mind of all the research and all the things. Like, I have all the data that says it doesn't make any sense. And his final thesis punch is it's repressed rage. So I was like, okay, I'll play. So I sit, before I ever make this journey, I sit and I start to journal. For me, this is the beginning of like this, all this connective tissue. What is shadow work? What is my body guiding me and telling me the truth? And the shadow is all the places that I'm unwilling to explore. All the places I've repressed, all the things I've never said. So, I mean, I have a pen and I'm strangling the pen. I'm not holding it. I'm strangling it. And I start to rip Fuck. I mean, like, I'm ripping the journal pages with the pen tip, and I'm enraged. And I'm enraged with my father, my brother, my oldest son, and my wife. Very, very clear. These are my 4 horsemen. And I think what's so fascinating for me is I have this really unique gift. I wasn't abused sexually, verbally, physically. My father wasn't an alcoholic. I mean, that man got up and went to work every day, provided a beautiful life. You know, my wife is a loving, beautiful woman. You know, my son was just a normal punk ass teenage kid. And my brother and I were 2 brothers that had conflict. And I know so much more now, but then it was like I had never, it was like, it was so taboo to feel those things, for me to say those things. The pain was the repression of it all. And it was getting really, really loud. So here I am, and I realize, oh, the problem is I'm a rageaholic. I'm a rage monster, and I have this massive demon inside me. Mind you, I'm also been in the church for a while, so the demon narrative worked really, really well for me at that time. So I show up at this journey, and I said in the beginning, I'm the diva. I'm very dramatic. I love my superhero movies. And, you know, it was like my Batman moment or my Dracula moment. I'm like, I drop into this state. The world around me shifts. The sun is setting, and I'm like, there is a dark demon inside of me that must be pierced by the setting sun, because if the sun does not pierce through my heart in this moment, then I will not be able to destroy the demon inside me, and it will take me over forever and evermore. So in my dramatic fashion, I run across the lawn, and the sun
Literally
is setting.
dramatic.
Literally, and my shirt is off, and we're at this beautiful property, right, with the waves. I go, and when it was the neighbors, and like the sun is set, but that's where the sun is at the neighbor's pier. So I run over, and I like turn, and I can see the sun, the darkness of the trees, and the sun hits right on my body. It was this beautiful moment. Now, the really funny part is right before I did my beautiful drama, which was so epic, the facilitator had sat with me, and I'd never worked with this woman, knew her for anybody. And I said, I need to like, you know, destroy the rage monster. She's like, well, maybe there's another way, you know, but she let me play my game. There's really no climatic ending other than there was no like big explosion in my body. No like demon came, you know, soaring out of me that I saw. In fact, what got really interesting is that later, I don't know, it might have been even the second night, but I had a new narrative. And that narrative was I had this flashback to when I was a boy. And when I was a boy, I just loved fantasy. I loved all of it. I loved the,
Mm.
the Pegasus, the unicorn. Even better was the unicorn with Pegasus wings. Like if you had it all, it was even better. Rainbow magic, all the cartoons of my youth, um, and what felt like fun and playful, magical as a boy. Then as I started to become a young adult, it started to become, I grew up in an era of RUFC. And so some of these like, oh wait, like that's not what it is to be masculine. And I can't have, and it started
Mm.
getting like teasing and all this stuff. And so it was crazy as I had this vision and I could like feel that unicorn got put away. Like that thing that represented that fantasy magic, I was like stuffed away in this cage and got pushed deeper and deeper away. And it was like in the darkness that unicorn transformed into this like dark beast because it was so neglected. And so it's like because again, I get to make up these stories. I get to make up the visions and the beliefs. But what I really found is that and Laura, you and I have explored, there's a lot of magic. And it's not just the stuff in cartoons and movies. Man, and I was so blown away when I experienced, and I think I'd say is what I experienced was the clair senses, the psychic senses, like learning that there are actually way more dimensions and things beyond that which I'd ever understood. So for this magic actually to be awoken, what I was really, really trying to do was unlock the cage and bring the magic back alive, change my belief, change my narrative. And that was just the first night we met. So I'll
Yeah.
pause there.
Well, it seems like we've been able to witness the growth. We've been able to witness the awareness that's been woken up. And one of the things that you really brought up the other day that got my attention was the resentment that you really noticed when you granted your wife the wish of motherhood.
Mm, yes, indeed.
I think
Mm,
that's really powerful.
yeah.
Um, just to give the perspective of not making these emotions wrong, not making them anything other than giving them the stage to be what they are.
Yeah. So thank you. Mm, so I think this is probably right now one of the most powerful unspeakables, right? This
Mhm.
is the thing that I'm going to say that when I share this, what I when I there's things that I share and I can watch people's eyes, and I can't watch everybody's eyes, but there are people like, oh, how dare you? You can't think that. You can't say that. And there's others who go, oh my God, I'm not alone.
Mhm.
Oh my God, you said it. I didn't know we were allowed to say
Mhm.
it, right?
There you go.
So the story that Laura is referring to is that one of my most repressed things is that I fell in love with a girl. I was a boy who fell in love with a girl. And I was a young man. I was 19. My wife was 18. When we were about 26 years old, we decided together to have a family. And in the end, like I didn't even know that was an option. I just thought that's I grew up in this way. I was checking the boxes of what I was supposed to do with
Mhm.
my life. And that was just another thing. And I wasn't opposed to it. I wasn't like, oh, I don't want to have kids and I have to. It was just like, yeah, I mean, I guess this is time. This is the next box to check. More than anything, like I fell in love with this woman. We moved to Austin together and we didn't have friends or family here. So it was like we had started our life and had been forging and creating this life together. And, and I was madly in love with her. And this was her dream more than anything else. She wanted to be a mom. So of course, like I knew this was part of the equation. I knew the thing I want to give to the woman I love is the thing that there's like the deepest desire of her heart. And so, we have this child, and at first, I was literally part of the birth with her. We did this birthing center birth. I'm in the tub with her, and it was this incredible, profound moment. And then we went home.
Mm.
And then the reality starts to happen. And I watch my wife completely graft onto my son. And I mean, and understandably and biologically so, the child is literally
Mhm.
completely dependent on her. She is breastfeeding. It's the sleepless nights, the anxiety, like our life completely centers around this kid. And I have so much unspoken resentment to my own child because I've now lost the love of my life because she has no time for me. She doesn't want to be touched. I mean, I'm not just talking about like, oh, I needed my sex. It's like, I mean, it was like, don't fucking touch me.
Mm.
Like, I take this child. I need a break. Pour me a glass of wine. The phone calls. When are you coming home? And I'm like, what did I do? Like, what
Mhm.
did we do? And I just see, again, being caught in like the default of just doing what was expected, doing this, following the societal pressures, and then we almost adopted two children based on like the church pressures that we were in missional church. I
Mm.
mean, I was a day away from flying to Haiti to go get two kids. A friend of a friend, and she's like, they're buying babies. Like this is literally like human trafficking. And this like massive explosion. And I'm going, wake up. Like what? I don't even want more children. Like, what am I doing?
Mhm.
And I thought that was the end of my marriage because what Laura was so like, this is her next thing, right? She wanted to adopt babies and she wanted to rescue and do this
Mm.
narrative. And I was like, I can barely handle the three that we have. I don't want more children, you know? And that might have been one of the first moments that I finally stopped repressing it for fear of what was she going to think? Would she still love me? Would she divorce me? It's so much of my own fear from my parents. There's one thing, my parents were just divorced, but what happened with my parents is they had one fight, 7 years of my mom stonewalling my dad. 7 years that was in my body. And then they finally divorced. And that was whether I even knew, and now I know what I know about even that. Like, I just don't know if I knew how much that was in me, how afraid I really was, how afraid I was to tell my truth. How I watched my father be silent. Never watched my father have a voice. Never watched them have constructive conversations, fight in a healthy way, battle for each other, with each other. And so like it always had to get so bad. I mean, I'm a flight away from getting two adopted children from Haiti. I'm paralyzed. And it's like, oh my gosh, I resent my kids. I resent
Mhm.
I resent my wife for like choosing my kids over me. Am I allowed to say that? What kind of man does that make me? Am I evil? I'm certainly bad and wrong. I'm certainly
Mhm.
not allowed to speak that, is at least the story in me. So I'm just literally paralyzed. I'm choked down, I'm locked down, and I'm just laboring. And it becomes that like standard narrative. I just felt like I was the fucking guy chained to my desk to make money for all of their wishes and whims. And I hated everybody.
Mhm. Yeah.
I fucking hated everybody. Now, again, my children are the hardest part of my life and the greatest teachers. There's no denying it. But if I wanted to have an easier role, I definitely don't think kids would have been in my equation. But
Yeah.
man, oh man. And I'm still in the thick of stuff, especially with my youngest son right now. But to me, that is such an example of what it is to go deep within and excavate the truth. And the greatest courage I ever had. And I've had a couple of these moments where I've gone away in like a silent space with myself and reflected and journaled for like a couple of days. And I've come back and I'm like, if I share this truth with my wife, this might be the end of my marriage if I tell this truth. And I had to ask myself the question, Jon, is it more important for you in your body and in your spirit to tell the truth and deal with the unknown reality of what may or may not happen, or to continue to stay silent so you never have to have the courage to take the risk that it might be the end if you tell the truth? And I was like, not telling the truth is killing me. It's killing me. Every time, now listen, spirits somehow knew what they were doing putting LJ and I together, because every time I've had the courage, she has heard me and she has seen me, and we've evolved, and it's been not easy, but chapter after chapter after chapter, you know, we have chosen each other. But I had so many projections of my mom on her. I mean,
Yeah.
that's still the reality. I wasn't even doing a relationship with my wife. I was doing a relationship with my mom.
Correct. There we go. That's where it is. Yeah.
That's where
All
it
the
is.
unspoken resentment.
That's it.
And the reason that, I've got you here today is, and I've loved bringing Tim in as well, is it's all that unspoken resentment that more than likely did not even start with a person standing in front of you.
Exactly.
It started way before that. But
That's
it's
right.
this conditioning of, I shouldn't have these feelings.
Correct.
It's the conditioning of, I should not be thinking this way. And I've seen it so much with men that they don't speak up. I've
That's right.
witnessed it with you and Laura. When Tim finally felt safe enough to start talking to me, Jesus Christ, when he started backing up the truck of all the loads of resentment that he had,
Yeah.
ooh, it was a lot. And it just had to be seen so that you could be seen in it. It could be okay. And it doesn't define how you stay in relationship. It actually creates these beautiful invitations. I'm sure you've experienced that. These invitations to go, oh, another part of me gets to now take a seat at this relationship. Come forward, be seen, and taking part of yourself back.
Well, and I think what I've learned so much is this gets into another thing that you and I've explored together, is sexuality and intimacy.
Mm,
And I can definitely say, and I'm gonna project, for many men here, but I'm gonna speak from again from the eye. I know that I had that stuff really, really, really confused. And so for me, there was so much vulnerability, acceptance, validation tied into sexuality. And that was like the only intimacy that it felt like I was allowed.
mm, mm-hmm,
Like I wasn't really allowed intimacy in any other way.
mm-hmm,
I didn't have any practice. I've never demonstrated. I certainly wasn't allowed intimacy with other men, or certainly wasn't allowed intimacy with other women. Because then I don't know. I'm confused with my gender, or I'm like potentially flirting with affairs, and I think it gets really complicated. So then
mm-hmm,
it continues more repression, more repression. So every
mm-hmm,
time I finally had the courage, what I found was that was like the most intimate, like meeting in the
mm-hmm.
shadow, meeting in those places is like the most intimate thing that we can be doing.
Yeah.
Again, literally this morning, but I had a date morning, which meant we were having sex. And, and, uh, and even that's been really fascinating to explore, because, we are in these patterns of how we relate and meet each other in our nakedness, literally, right?
Mm,
And I've been noticing something with Laura, and there's a lot going on in our life right now, and I can feel her body, and it might be even like a little bit of like the premenopause too. But I think it's mostly, I always believe it's actually emotional and relational. That's really at the heart of all the body stuff. But I'm so attuned to her body, I could feel it differently, and I could feel she's completely not responding to me. And so we're literally in the midst of this. Talk about vulnerability.
mm,
Literally naked, literally trying to come together as lovers. And I can just feel there's nothing. And so I have the courage to go, hey, can feel and we end up having the most beautiful, vulnerable conversation in our nakedness, and we never ever have sex, because this morning she needed me to come and connect with her intimately, but not through our bodies in that way. She needed me to meet her somewhere else. And that was just as intimate as if we had had sex.
100%.
And I would argue even more intimate, because you can even hide your intimacy in the physicality of sex.
That's a muscle that you've been cultivating by having the courage
That's right.
to speak to your emotions. And it wakes up this beautiful intimacy, because I mean, that's one thing that we've learned over the last 5 years is, God, intimacy really has nothing to do with sex. It's intimacy is, do you have the courage to be witnessed in your rawness of wherever you're at? And then when you get to do that with your partner, that you get to be seen in all that, you start doing exactly what just happened for you this morning.
Yeah.
It's like
It's,
you see her, you could smell her, you could feel it, you could sense it. Oh, that's awesome.
yeah. It's been interesting too. You and I have played with some different things, played with eye gaze, played with different non-sexual touch practices that we've explored together with some groups. And that has been so fascinating, right? I'll never forget. I was at a couples retreat, and this might have been the first time that I had done an eye gaze practice. And so I remember I'm seeing these couples, they've been together for as long as Laura and I, so 20, 25 years, right? They definitely had sex a couple of times. They have 3 kids. They've at least had sex 3 times, right? Could not look each other in the eyes.
Oh, felt that for some reason.
It's like that again speaks to, is sex actually the most intimate thing? If I can't even hold you in an eye gaze, what have we been doing?
Yeah.
And if I haven't met you with an eye gaze, have we actually explored the fullness of each other's fullness, our shadows, our most vulnerable places, our most sticky stories, our hatred, our resentment? One of the things that we were talking about too, I was just recently exposed to this guy, Terrence Real, right? The Us book.
Yes.
And I was thinking about what you were talking about with Tim, of like, he backs up the truck, like, beep, beep, beep. Here's all the shit I've been storing for however many years. And what I'm realizing with this guy uses this thing called relationship technology as his terminology, which is pretty fun and, relevant. But what I saw for myself is so I finished this book, and he has this thing called the feedback wheel. And the feedback wheel goes, I heard or saw this. The story I made up about it was this. The feelings that I have are this. And so I was like, put the most intense feeling at the end. So if your first feeling is anger, always make anger the last feeling. You get to say it and you get to represent it, but let it be at the end. Usually start with your hurt. And then if you're actually in the act of a repair, you're actually training people like, this is what I need from you to make this better. Right. So I decided, okay, I've read this book. I'm going to put this into practice. I sit down with my son and my wife, because there's a couple of grievances I had. I had some repair I needed. But what I noticed most, it was really fun to use a new tool and very effective. And I super recommend it to everybody. But in the point of the truck, what I realized was, holy shit, nobody taught me this before. I'm using a tool for the very first time I've never used. And because I've never used it, I have you want to see my scoreboard? You want to see my dump truck of stuff that I've stacked for years with both of you in the relational field? Because I haven't come every time and gone, hey, this doesn't work for me, and I don't want to let this stack. So I'm going to have a voice. Here's what I saw. Here's the story I made up about it. Here's how I feel about it. Here's how here's how I'd like to train you to be in a relationship with me. And by the way, the door is open for that to go both ways.
Yeah.
But instead, silence, repression, dump truck. So when that thing does burst, now it's a volcano. Now it's going to just destroy and take no names. And by the way, you're fucking evil and terrible, and there's nothing you can do about it, because you're a narcissistic, lazy piece of shit who blah, 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 whatever my labels are. That's one of the things I love that he says too. He's like, hey, if I left my mug on the counter, or I put my mug on the wood end table, and I didn't use a coaster, and it's going to make a ring, and you're frustrated because you really like that table and you don't want rings on it. And you're like, hey, this is what happened. It would really love me well for you to use a coaster. Can we take care of the furniture? as opposed to you are a selfish, negligent piece of shit who never cares about me. And if I am an evil piece of shit, I can't do anything in the relationship field with you because you've labeled me as this, and really all I want to do is either exit stage left, or I want to go to the judge and jury and debate on how that's not who I am in my personality or character. But the
Yeah.
truth of the matter is, I am kind, I am loving, I am thoughtful, I am generous, I am selfish, I'm an asshole, I I am cruel sometimes. I'm only thinking of myself. Like that has been the most fun part, is when I do my shadow work, I get to play with the whole box of crayons.
There you
Not
go.
just yellow and green and blue, because those
Mhm.
are the colors that everybody likes. You get to bring in the red and the brown and the orange. And it's like, yeah, I get to be all of the human experience. And when I get to be all the human experience, so do you. There's
Correct.
room for you as well. And now we get to figure out, how do we do relationship when it all gets to be here? And we get to paint these more colorful, more dramatic, more intense highs and lows. We can make this symphony together. This
Yeah.
point needs all the colors.
Yeah. We all do.
Yeah.
And so many times in relationship, that's, we're all so afraid to be seen, be heard, and it's all the conditioning, right? And I think women, I'm going to speak for myself here in my relationship. Yeah, I repressed a lot of stuff, but at the same time, my resentment, I was always spewing stuff, right? Saying things. And my words would land on Tim, and then he would just quiet and look for a way to numb.
Yeah.
And he disappeared,
And Laura,
you
would you
know?
say that you were leaky with your language instead of direct, or were you direct?
God, no, I was leaky. I had
Leaky,
no
because that
idea.
hits
Oh, yeah.
differently,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. No, yeah. Because I even myself had no idea. I wasn't giving myself full permission and access to what I was really feeling. Because even that for me was going like, who am I if I feel this way?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It
Absolutely.
wasn't until, I started taking and then he started taking this radical ownership of my emotions. And yeah, sometimes at the very beginning, it doesn't come out very, very skilled. But
Yeah.
when it does, that this intimacy, like what you just described about this morning, is
Yeah.
beautiful because I get to, which I actually am really excited about that I get to have that with Tim now.
Yeah.
Because before it wasn't intimacy. It was friction. And it was always like, I wasn't thinking about him. He wasn't thinking about me. It was, I was trying to get to a point. He was trying to get to a point, and now he knows how to connect with me. He knows if it's a yes or a no, or does something else need to happen. It wasn't for Tim to figure out for me. I had to express what I needed. I had to
Beautiful.
show where I was, express where I felt. I had to take ownership and say it. So that way, then him trying to figure it out, that's just, you're not going to win.
Yeah. Yeah, it was actually really powerful this morning because, again, I was tapping into my magic, into my intuition, and I knew where we were, and I had sensed even from our last date. And I said to Laura, I said, "Hey, I would like to make a recommendation, a proposal for this morning." And one of the things that I know, um, so I am incredibly attuned to me. I'm super aware of my body. I'm super connected with myself. And then that's developed much more over time with the reps and all the work. But I am also default individualist, whereas Laura is default other, right?
Mm,
Tribe. So
hmm
her knee jerk is to read the field and what does everybody else need. And so it's actually quite an effort for her to figure out even how to go inside and find out, where is she? What does she want? What does she need at the moment? So I said, "Hey, this morning, I really want to give you time to connect with yourself and like awaken your own
mm,
sexuality.
mhm.
And you let me know, like, is 30 minutes a good amount of time? Like, what's the, like, when should I come and check in? And then you let me know whether you're awake, alive, or if it's like, that's not going to happen this morning. Right. And you need something else. And she was resistant because it's new. There's a defensiveness to it. But also what I do is I took myself out of the equation
Mm.
because she likes to outsource the responsibility to me. Well, you're supposed to turn me on. And I'm like, we're a little more grown up. We're a little more grown up than that, my love. So I left and I came back. And let me tell y'all, the scene I walk into, I was like, let's fucking go. My girl, man, she took the initiative. Man, she was in all of this energy. And I was like, let's go. And then then we landed where everybody knows the conclusion of where we landed. It was fascinating. Because again, she still tried to like project, well, you need to blah, no, I said, no. I'm a skilled, generous lover, my dear. I know what just happened. Let's take this back. And I said, how were you when you were connecting with you? Were you awake? She's like, no, I knew it was a no from the beginning of this morning. I said, now that I believe.
Mm.
But she has her own narrative of like, I don't want my body to be broken or this is important and I judge myself. And I'm like, babe, you're the one who always says good body, wise body. I love you. I'm listening. Like if your body says no, like let's listen to that. And let's go, okay, well what is your body asking for this? But again, like we're humans. And if we're playing with brand new ways, like
Yeah.
she and I are both practicing and we're giving each other grace to practice new ways of being with ourselves, with each other. And this stuff takes reps. I have to do
Yeah.
it over and over and over. And I have to have, what feels like failure. And I was like, is it really failure? Or is it just the fact that I feel uncomfortable and I don't feel successful and I made what feels like a misstep, but really it's all just learning. It's all attuning. So yeah, it was a really, I didn't know that was going to happen this morning that would have fed so much into this narrative, but I think it's a really beautiful example.
Yeah. You guys have been actively working at this, so this isn't something that happens overnight. This is a constant maneuvering, the giving each other permission, like what you noticed, you gave her. It's like, are you tuning into you? What do you need? And it's a new practice to do that.
Totally. Yeah.
And it's such a gift
Yeah.
to be able to do that.
Well, and I feel like it becomes such a different degree of intimacy when I'm actually fully connected with me and you're fully connected with you. And we come and bring the fullness of our authenticity together,
Mm.
whether that's in my friendship with you or my friendship with
Mhm.
Chrissy or my friendship with Tim or my friendship with my wife or my being a lover with my wife. Like in every one of the scenarios. And this is maybe the thing that I feel the most is when I'm like, the person in front of me is like shielding, guarded, not really like there's a posture. Like I can feel all those things. And I am a selfish, intimate, desiring human being. And I'm like, I want all of you. And I want the most pure, authentic, like basically, I'm like, if I'm in a conversation, I'm sure like,
Mhm.
I want you to be a lover with me. Like, come bring yourself fully, meet me here. And I'm going to bring
Mhm.
myself fully here. And I know that not every environment like is conducive to that, but that's why I don't love a lot of environments because it's what I
Mhm.
want. And it's
Yeah.
why I tend to really love a small group or a one-on-one experience
Yeah.
over the larger group settings because
Yeah.
that's what brings me alive. And I know that's different. I know other people have different energies and
Yeah.
desires and preferences, but that is my desire.
And you honor it.
Yeah.
And even if you're in a space and you always walk around inviting people to fully show up. And when you feel them breaking, I see it in your face. You start to crack that smile. I was like, oh, here they come. Here
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
come. And it's amazing. I love it. I mean, that's why you and I play so well together.
Oh my gosh, yes. It's fun is that, to again to speak to our relationship, you and I have tended to always be the loudest people in any room, right? And sometimes that can actually be triggering for true humans of like, I want to be the most noisy person or what take up the most, whatever it is. But I always found that we met each other there, like, oh, let's go. Like we're gonna both go, and it was like I felt like it was actually for me, I experienced it as like an exchange of giving permission of
Yeah.
like, oh yeah, like I see you going into your body, meeting the darkest things, getting, expressing it completely unguarded, unbridled, without fear of judgment. I'm going there. Right. And then I always felt like when I did that stuff, because I always had like, the thing is, I want people to know too, it's not like I don't have to walk through that layer that says, what are people going to think of you? What are people going to think? Like, you can't express like that, or they're going to think that of you, or they're going to think you're bad or wrong, or they're going to think you're, egocentric or whatever. And it's like, do it anyways, Jon, because it's authentic. It's what needs to happen. And damn it, Jon, you're going to give somebody permission. You're going to,
Yeah.
if you get loud, you give somebody permission to go meet themselves and stop repressing. And that's probably the biggest thing for me, gone back and back, is the repression. So for
Yep.
me, that is continues to be an embodied practice. And I think that's why, whether it's the expression, it's the shadow work, it's saying the unsaid, I love giving myself permission because it gives me so much more growth and freedom and access and abundance. And then when somebody goes, oh, I can too. And I'm like, yeah, let's go. And one of my favorite things to do is to be with somebody who has not expressed rage. And I'm like, let's go. Like, bring it. Like, I can, and I don't mean hold it like I'm your punching bag. I'm like,
No.
I can literally, whatever you have to express, I can hold a judgment-free zone of it. You got somebody you hate, you despise, your kid, your mom, your dad, whoever it is. There's nowhere you can express that I'm going to be like, oh, how dare you think that way? I'm like, oh yeah, let's go. I think that was maybe one of my most recent journeys. The two of you know a little bit of the narrative. I ended up being unwelcomed, but what was so fun was it was actually hero, victim, villain triangle. And man, I played the part of the villain / challenger so well. And in fairness, there were people there who maybe haven't haven't had as many reps, right? So they maybe been in different containers, so they haven't really been exposed to a Laura or a Jon and the energy, right, that we can bring. And perhaps that wasn't welcome there, but that wasn't clearly articulated. Otherwise, I would have attended. But nonetheless, what happened. Again, it was another perfect and beautiful teaching container. And then I had my experience. And there was a woman I'd never met before who looked at me and said, I need that challenge. Like, will you bring that to me? And I kind of, like you said, that coy smile. I'm like, all right, I'll be your Huckleberry. I was like, listen, you come find me when you're ready and I'll check in. But yeah. And so sure enough, later that evening, man, we spent the whole evening together. And what I saw was, it was kind of like, am I allowed to say that? Am I allowed to feel that? Am I allowed? Am I allowed? And I'm just like,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not going to tell you like, you're not going to make me uncomfortable. I'm not going to have to go away, but also that's not true for everybody.
Correct.
And that is the reality too, is that as we access those things and as I have found more fullness and truth in myself, not every relational field welcomes that fullness, welcomes more colors. And that's usually because that person hasn't given themselves permission to access those colors for themselves. And so it's very provoking and challenging. And that's okay. Like, I don't need to force anybody's growth or process or whatever. But I also get to have sovereignty and say, I'm not really interested in being in a relational field where I have to edit myself.
There it is, where you have to edit yourself.
Yeah, that's just not of
Yeah.
interest to me. And so I have the sovereignty to say, I am totally down with re-engaging in this relational field if and when that person, is open to the fullness of who I am, which usually means they've done the work to open up their color spectrum a little bit more. I don't ever want to be closed. I never want to say never, never. I would never be in a relationship with that person again. They're bad. They're wrong. Blah. I'm above them. I'm better. It's just like, hey, like I get choice here too. And I want to show up in the fullness of who I am in every relational field that I possibly can. And in the beginning, especially when we got into the journey work, none of the people I had my life with was doing this kind of work. So that was really confronting. Like I have this whole new set of language and expression. Like, can I don't know if I can be in a relationship with them anymore. Not because I'm better than them or whatever, but it's like there's words, there's experiences that I need to be able to share with somebody. Where am I going to go? And I think that's so much of what forged our relationship because we all did that. We were like, who else are we going to talk to about this?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
We had that, and that's what created our relationships. Is we had each other, and we had more colors that we could play with together, and that was just really liberating. But it's amazing how that has actually evolved over time, and there's been more people who are holding it. And I even feel that like more expansively in the culture. I feel like there's popular movies and there's books and there's podcasts, and I'm going, this didn't exist. Either this is where we start to get into these weird, fun questions of like, wait, did the world change around me because I changed? And like all of a sudden I could see and hear things, but I never saw and heard of them before because I wasn't awake and wasn't ready and I wasn't using those colors yet. So that gets really fun of like,
That is interesting.
because it's this idea of like, oh, I can't go do this because no one will accept me or no one's doing it. And all of a sudden you go, and you see the purple car, and then you've never seen a purple car before, and then it's like, there's purple cars everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Were they always there? Who gives a shit? It's fun. I like purple cars.
Oh my God. Well, I kind of feel the energy coming to a close. We covered a lot. I think there was other things I wanted to touch on, but at the end of the day, what we kept coming back to over and over is allowing all the parts of you
Yes.
to show up, to be seen, and playing with more aspects of you because there is aspects of you that are waiting to come out. We've experienced. I mean, right here, these three. You know, holy cow! The colors that we play with now in life
That's right.
are completely different
That's right.
from when we first met. It's like
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
So there's so much to find.
And I feel like the real trap is waiting for someone outside of me to give me permission to get the colors. That is an inside job.
Yeah.
I have to decide that I'm going to pick up the colors, that I'm going to expand my palette. And then I have to have the courage to paint them in my world, knowing that some people will go, this is beautiful. And some people will go, who are you? And that is, and that is the reality of being an artist. It is truly, some people love it and some people don't. And
That's okay.
and
Yeah.
that it's only okay when I've done my work to actually get okay with it. Because for a long time, I wanted everyone to like and love me.
Yeah.
And that means that I had to edit myself to whatever their version of like and love was going to be. And that's when I said, I can't play that game anymore. That hurts too much. The person who can see me in the fullness of who I am. But no one can do that if I don't show the fullness of who I am. I will never know if I'm
100%.
constantly acquiescing to other people.
100%. So have you all picked up all your colors?
Pick them up.
What's the next color you're going to pick up?
I don't pick up my colors. Mine are all over the place, and it's paint, it's
Yeah,
pencils, and it's dirt,
that's
and
right.
it's crayons.
Well, I'll say this. The most magnificent colors that I have found are deep, deep in the mines. And I gotta
Yes.
go down into the dark. And somehow it is in the darkest places that the most brilliant gems are found.
100%.
Yeah.
Ah, well, I am going to take us to a close. And I've got a little closing integration and self inquiry. to take us out. So, as we close today, I want you to pause, to take a breath, and notice what moved inside you. What part of you listening right now feels triggered? What part feels seen? What part feels maybe a bit defensive? And can you let all those parts exist in you without labeling them as something wrong? Shadow work is not about becoming darker. It's about becoming more honest. It's about speaking an I. It's about reclaiming the parts of us that we exiled in order to belong. It's about loving the outcast parts of ourselves so deeply that they no longer need to scream for recognition. Maybe something unspeakable stirred in you today. Maybe there's resentment you've never voiced, or grief you've never named, and a story you've been carrying alone. What would it look like to hold that story as yours without projecting it into someone else? What would it feel like to say in I language? Not to blame, not to accuse, but to free your own body from that silence. Belonging begins inside of you. And the parts of you that feel evil or wrong or too much or too damn honest, those often are the very parts that have been waiting to be loved. So as you leave this episode, I invite you into one small act of courage. Speak one truth in I today, even if it's only to yourself. Stay in your body. Stay in your breath. Stay with your unfolding. This is Selah, a deep pause. And sometimes the deepest pause is the one where we finally meet the parts of ourselves we've been afraid to see. Aho, and this is a wrap.
Jon, thanks for joining us. We appreciate it.
Hey, thanks for loving all of me, having me show up big. Love you both.
Always. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for pausing with me. May what you heard settle gently in your body and stir something true within you. If this episode spoke to your soul, please subscribe and share with someone else who might need this pause as well. Until next time, come as you are, take a deep breath, and stay for the stillness.